Because in a sense, South Carolina kind of bats cleanup, to use a baseball analogy. You get the thing rolling in Iowa, which is very conservative, very evangelical. It goes to New Hampshire, which is a tad more cerebral, I think. And then it comes down to South Carolina, where politics is a red meat blood sport.
Newt can win! Newt can win! Newt can win!
Well, it's frightening. When the whole budget debacle was going on, the deficit, debt ceiling thing, what frightened me was that the rest of America was starting to sound like South Carolina in the way that it did things. Very entrenched, very mean, very ignorant, very dogmatic, just inflexible. And it bothered me because if you look at South Carolina, we are not exactly a paragon of success. Our Constitution guarantees kids a minimally adequate education. Health care is poor. We lead the nation in any number of maladies that could be helped by preventive care. We've got a stronger prison system, I think, than we have an education system. But America is so skewed, I think, and right at this tick of the clock, America is so skewed towards doing something with Barack Obama, at least those who are conservative and those who have had their bigotry kind of fanned up. Every time I listen to them say, you know, our main goal is to beat Obama, you substitute the word lynch in there and it fits quite well. And so, you know, there's a great desire among some people in America to do a political lynching of Barack Obama. And South Carolina has specialized in that kind of thing down through the years. So I guess that's why there's that national influence.
Speaker Gingrich, you recently said black Americans should demand jobs, not food stamps. You also said poor kids lack a strong work ethic and proposed having them work as janitors in their schools. Can't you see that this is viewed at a minimum as insulting to all Americans, but particularly to black Americans?
No, I don't see that.
Past is prologue around here. People say the Civil War is over. It's not over. There's a ceasefire in 1865, but the war has gone on, and it's still going on. It just takes different forms. The language kind of evolves over the years, from Jim Crow to the present day, but that same racial division has never been dealt with in America in general, in South Carolina in particular.
Only Newt Gingrich can beat Obama.
More people have been put on food stamps by Barack Obama than any president in American history. I believe every American of every background has been endowed by their Creator with the right to pursue happiness, and if that makes liberals unhappy, I'm going to continue to find ways to help poor people learn how to get a job, learn how to get a better job, and learn someday to own the job. I'm Newt Gingrich, and I approve this message.
Coming up on the Civil War, there was a gentleman named Pettigrew, I think, legislator from South Carolina, and had a wonderful quote when they were talking about seceding, that South Carolina was too small to be a republic and too big to be an insane asylum. And Pettigrew's quote still drives things. South Carolina's always had that, I don't know what you'd call it, rabid quality, rebellious quality, radical quality in the nation. You know, going back to the Revolutionary War, the British were steamrolling until they got into the upcountry of South Carolina, and that's where they ran into trouble. So it's that fighting history that the state has, and that history still goes on.
Governor Perry, last month the Department of Justice challenged South Carolina's new law requiring registered voters to show state-issued identification before they can vote. Governor Haley has pledged to fight the federal government all the way to the Supreme Court. You sided with the governor. Now, Governor Perry, are you suggesting on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day that the federal government has no business scrutinizing the voting laws of states where minorities were once denied the right to vote?
I'm saying that the state of Texas is under assault by federal government. I am saying also that South Carolina is at war with this federal government and with this administration. When you look at what
Rick Perry said that South Carolina is at war with the federal government in the debate on Monday. He got a standing ovation just about it.
Yeah.
They showed the governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, applauding wildly. Did you watch that?
I hadn't been able to watch a Republican debate yet. I eat about that time, and I didn't want to get nauseous. I saw the clips. It's not surprising. People around here get very stirred up by rhetoric, and too often it's sad because, number one, they don't think about what's being said, and number two, sometimes those who are most strident in saying we got to do this hurt themselves in the process, hurt their own constituencies in the process, but are so rabid about being in political control that it doesn't really matter.
What's up with these sorry politicians? Lots of bark, but when it's showtime, whimpering like little shih tzus. You want big cuts. Ron Paul's been screaming it for years. Budget crisis? No problem. Got $1 trillion year one. That's trillion with a T. Department of Education? Gone. Interior, Energy, HUD, Commerce? Gone. Later, bureaucrats. That's how Ron Paul rolls. Want to drain the swamp? Ron Paul. Do it.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.
We have not made as much progress as we need to make. People are frustrated. They're deeply frustrated.
I messed up. I screwed up.
Who can stop Obama?
The most important thing is defeating Obama. The strongest candidate to beat Obama is Mitt Romney.
Governor Romney is the best candidate to beat Barack Obama. And we cannot have another 4 years of Barack Obama in the White House.
Mitt Romney, because beating Obama is the most important issue. Citizens for a Working America PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
How do you think Obama should deal with this?
I think he should do exactly what he's been doing. I've been pastoring, 30-some-odd years, 35 years. My normal response when people get heated in a meeting or some setting like that is to just stay professional. Now, when I get in the car, I might cuss them out for everything they're worth. But within that setting, I stay professional. And I think the president has to do that. I think, number one, because it's the dignified and adult thing to do. And I think, number two, still, given our mindset in this country, he has to be the least threatening black man in America in order to be reelected.
Speaker Gingrich, the suggestion that you made was about a lack of work ethic. And I got to tell you, my email account, my Twitter account has been inundated with people of all races who are asking if your comments are not intended to belittle the poor and racial minorities. You saw some of this reaction during your visit to a black church in South Carolina. You saw some of this during your visit to a black church in South Carolina, where a woman asked you why you refer to President Obama as the food stamp president. It sounds as if you are seeking to belittle people.
Well, first of all, Juan, the fact is that more people have been put on food stamps by Barack Obama than any president in American history.
Do you think Newt Gingrich has been throwing out red meat these last couple of weeks?
Oh, yeah, he's been throwing out well-calculated red meat. He's tried to paint himself as one who has the interests of the black community at heart. To me, that's like Hitler saying, I've got the best interests of the Jewish community at heart. He obviously doesn't. And if he does not hear the language that he said, then he's either brain dead or tone deaf. It does not resonate in black ears. You cannot say food stamp in a way that generates a response from people who associate food stamp with black and not understand that these days a lot of folks are not necessarily minority. Matter of fact, the majority are not minority who own food stamps or who receive public assistance. But he's feeding an old perception. And that's unfortunate. That's mean. That's ignorant. And in the long term, I don't think it'll work.
President Obama wants to fundamentally transform America. I stand ready to lead us down a different path. This president has enacted job-killing regulations. I'll eliminate them. He lost our AAA credit rating. I'll restore it. He passed Obamacare. I'll repeal it. I will cut, cap, and balance the federal budget. If you believe that the disappointments of the last few years are a detour, not a destiny, then I'm asking for your vote. I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
They fled tyranny, came to America to live their dreams, instilling their grandson with the values of hard work, integrity, and conviction of character. Those values drive Rick Santorum as he fights the Obama agenda to stop runaway spending and get our great nation back to work. The principled conservative who's never wavered in defense of the unborn, the only one with experience in the fight against radical Islam. Rick Santorum, the real conservative we can trust. Red, White, and Blue Fund is responsible for the content of this ad.
I think that if they're not careful, they're going to make themselves obsolete. If you look at those who had those Tea Party rallies, there were not a lot of young faces in that number. Those are folks who are holding on to old bitterness, and new generations just don't do old bitterness in the same way. Have their own issues, I'm sure, but that old entrenched stuff tends to die. You couple that with the fact that regardless of how many immigration laws they try to push through, how many voter ID laws to prevent fraud, that where there's no fraud, you've got a growing population of color in America. And eventually, those who support the Republican Party are going to be culturally in a minority. And if you spend all of your time beating those folks up as they get up, as they grow, you're going to be in bad. It's like a Chihuahua that goes after a Great Dane puppy and just mauls the Great Dane puppy, but a year later the Chihuahua is looking up at the Great Dane and saying, you know, I always was your friend, really. I just did that for your own good. So I think the GOP either has to evolve, they will eventually make themselves obsolete. America is growing, and I think that given maybe a generation, possibly less than that, America is going to say enough, and they're going to be obsolete.